All right, so in this podcast episode, we interviewed Brett Marshall from Windwood Productions. Brett has an awesome story about going to school for film production, something that's kind of frowned upon these days. A lot of creative fields people think you shouldn't go to college for anymore. He did it. He got a job that was negative, let's say toxic, and he has a great story about getting out of that toxic work environment and following his passion and going his own path, and now he owns his own business. So really good interview. Hope everyone enjoys it. My puppy Haga was kind of running amok while we were doing the interview, so there's some weird cuts. We had to take quick breaks, little puppy breaks, so apologize for that, but I hope you enjoy the interview. All right, see you soon. Welcome back to the On Life podcast. We are here with Brett Marshall, owner of Windwood Productions, a video production company in Concord, New Hampshire. Brett, thanks so much for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So let's start from the beginning of your life, man. Tell us where you're from, where you went to school, all that jazz.
So I'm originally from Connecticut, a pretty small town called Darien. And yeah, so like growing up was like pretty privileged upbringing, to be honest. Coming up to New Hampshire, like kind of doing all that. Like, so it definitely like took every part of New England, I think, because I like grew up in Connecticut, ended up going to college in Rhode Island and Boston, and like so I've lived in almost every state in New England at this point.
Yeah. They're all great for their own reasons.
They all have their own thing.
Yeah.
But I think I settled on New Hampshire for 9 months out of the year. It's the perfect state. And then like around now, that like February, March, I'm like, okay, like maybe I need some kind of warmth, some kind of vitamin D, but for the rest of it, I'm like, you can't beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
where'd you go to college?
So I went to University of Rhode Island for a year. They were just starting out their film program, and it was the right fit because I never had like kind of good grades, things like that in high school, but it was so like you go to college now. That's just kind of what you did. It was the expectation. I think for a lot of people it still is. So it was the school that I could get into, and luckily they were just starting off their film program. So they're like, we need people who are dedicated towards this one thing. So like of the 12 schools I applied to, I maybe got into 3 of them, and that was the best one. So I went, and I'd always had my eye set on Emerson in Boston because it was like the best video production program that, you know, and it checked all of the boxes and stuff like that. But when I was meeting with my college advisor, they were like, oh, that's not you. Like, you can't do that, basically.
Yeah,
we're not even going to help you.
Pretty sought after school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even, it was like the reach. They're like, oh, you want to spend $70 to apply to this? Have fun. So I think that was like the big turning point for me mentally, was when I was at University of Rhode Island. I like did comfortably well, but I was like, I need to go to this thing that I want. And it's like, no one's telling me I have to. It's just like, it's time to like kick it into high gear. So it was like going to the advising office that like you have to find it on campus because you're usually like not going there, and like leaving that group of friends who like we got pretty tight after that year, but then I like definitely found a home at Emerson. So it was just a good place to be.
So you did eventually make it there.
I did.
And you did study film production?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I focused mostly on writing. And I like tried to do a feature while I was in school. And one of the things that I continuously learn about video production is like it takes money and infrastructure to do the things that you want to do. So like as a writer trying to make this feature, realizing like, oh, no one's like paying for this. Like I tapped out my entire savings like really quick, like doing all that. It just keeps coming back to the like, even if you're getting paid for it, like you're still usually spending more than like whatever that budget is because you want the new lens or you need the audio equipment, like whatever.
Yeah.
So
or you need bodies.
Yeah, you need human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So what year did you finish at Emerson?
I think I graduated in 2012.
Okay.
I think. And it was funny. I didn't have like a working knowledge of any kind of production. I left college not knowing shutter speed, f-stop, anything like that. I was a writer, like kind of through and through, even though I like took the basics in the college. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did 1 year of production at UNH Manchester, and it's funny how at the time all I knew was like I wanted to make something cool.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand how that gets done. So I didn't really pay attention to my classes because I was too busy like thinking up cool ideas. And it's like later when it has more relevance to you, you're like, oh, I really should have paid attention to all this stuff.
When you were there, was it more of like could you come in and say like, I have these ideas, or they're like, all right, you're coming here for a year, here are 8 classes that you don't need, and then like you get 1 or 2 classes that apply?
I'd also transferred, so my classes were a little bit more focused on the actual degree, which was good because a lot of my gen eds were already done. But one of the problems was the guy that had been pretty much the program for the whole time, he went on sabbatical after my first semester. So the second semester, when we were really getting into like, okay, you learned some stuff, now let's apply it, they brought in this random dude who was fine. I don't even remember his name, but I mean, he did an okay job, but it wasn't like, he was a little disorganized because he was just kind of thrown into the mix. So we were tasked with like making some things, but they didn't really come out that great. And the guy was just like, you tried, here's an A. Yeah. There was no really like critical analysis of what we had done or anything. So it was an interesting experience. It's weird though. It's like once you start doing it, like I have to get this project done. You figure out a way to make it work.
You kind of have like this is what it would be like in my mind. And then you start doing it and you're like, oh, wow, that was a lot. Like I can get it to maybe 70% if I just throw everything at the wall and get like my friends together to help. And like, that's definitely an interesting part of this, like your ideal project and like what it ends up being.
A lot of times I'll be happy with what I come up with, but it's not what I had in mind in the first place, which I guess is okay if you're happy with it. But it's a tough industry. So you graduate in 2012. What was your next step? I mean, it's a difficult career. Any arts-based career is difficult. So what happened after that?
Like most other people that went to Emerson, I tried California for a bit. I spent 2 years out there, which was interesting. Like it wasn't a healthy time for me personally, because I was like that 22, 23. Like I never really stopped like the really negative behaviors that I had in college. And then I moved away from all of my support system or people who'd be like checking in on me. Yeah. So like it was, a lot of drinking, a lot of all of that. And I was trying to be a writer like everyone else was trying to be, but I wasn't taking like me seriously. I wasn't taking like looking for jobs seriously. I wasn't taking even the job that I had seriously. So it was like that 2 years could have been super great. Like I had a lot of friends out there that like buckled down and grabbed an internship or like had been out there doing a semester, before they moved out. And I was so immature that it was just the worst thing for me. So I think that was a good realization.
Were you in LA?
Yeah. 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 It was like a good kick in the pants to be like, you're not mature enough for this right now. Like you don't almost deserve this. Yeah. I think that was like a really good lesson at that point.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that made the move to California. Actually, one of my good buddies, Matt LaFave, shout out to Matt, who's probably definitely not watching this because he's very busy. He went to Keene State, did their film school there, and then him and his buddy moved out, and they were just like, hey, we're going to figure it out. And it's one of those things where you're like, that's not going to work, Yeah. You think everyone tries it, so few people make it. And he was a diehard Red Sox fan, and he just happened to get a job working for a production company. The owner was from Boston, also a diehard Red Sox fan, and they just became really good friends. And he eventually became his like right-hand man, and they were shooting spots for Verizon, Microsoft, Major League Baseball teams. And now he's, like a big time producer. And I was watching this news article had come out about Shia LaBeouf. I don't know if I'm saying that name right.
You're somewhere around. Cool.
He did a movie called Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yeah.
And one of the co-stars is mentally handicapped. And during the Oscars or something, or Grammys, I don't know which one's for movies.
It's the Oscars.
Okay. Shows you how in touch I am with like pop media. They were presenting an award, and the guy was having a hard time opening the envelope, and Shia kind of like chuckled, and everyone's like, he's making fun of this mentally challenged guy, and they were actually really good friends. Yeah. And so I saw this news clip, and I was like, oh, I saw the movie. Like I want to see the video of him laughing, see like if people were right, if he's really like making fun of this guy. So I watched it, and while they were announcing the names, they read off some movie and they were like, Matt LaFave. And I texted him. I was like, bro, did you
what are you doing right now?
Did you
currently?
I was like, did you get nominated for an Oscar? And he's like, oh yeah, it was cool. We didn't win, which sucks. And I was like, holy crap. Like
he's doing it.
He's doing it. Yeah. So it was funny because like I remember working, a desk job with him 9 to 5.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm going to move out to California and try to make it in film. And you're like, okay, buddy. It's like, well, I guess you did.
It's so weird, like kind of who makes it. And then like you realize kind of whatever their growth was from there. Like you're like, probably not the same person that I worked that desk job with at this point.
No. We were actually out in California for a weightlifting competition I was coaching some athletes at. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, man, you around? We got lunch. I hadn't seen him in years. It was great to catch up with him. But it's funny because I think when you are interested in making any type of art and you go out to someplace like California, or you think about going out to someplace like California, you think that that's the dream. And after talking with him and like hearing about his lifestyle, I was like, that definitely would not have been for me.
No. I think the nice thing is it's like...
Is that your boot?
Oh, it absolutely is my boot. That's...
Sorry.
There are outlets there. There are like meetings there. There are things you can do there. But I think just knowing myself and like knowing kind of where I'm at, like it's not a full-time thing and it can't be. Like I've gone back and been a lot happier with the end result by being there for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
But I can't do it like kind of that day in, day out, everyday thing. Like I think there's something, and this sounds like weird, I know, but I think there is something a bit more grounding about like the East Coast or like maybe like New Hampshire. There's something a bit more like you're just being a person rather than trying to like pretend to be like in this society and do these things out there.
Yeah, I'm reading a book right now called The Death of the Artist, and it's about how the art world is changing because of the internet. Mm-hmm. And the common phrase right now is there's never been a better time because it's so easy to just like put your stuff out there. But simultaneously, it's like devaluing art because so many people can put their stuff out there. Yeah. Makes it like the supply is increased, so the demand can't really match it.
Mm-hmm. And I think the tough thing is like right now it's really easy to just put something out there with like a couple simple things to like put it into just a clutter, like you can download a template that makes you look like, the best guy who's doing it. There are like a lot of things that make it very hard to kind of separate out like what am I looking for, what would actually resonate with me, and who is just someone who's just trying to like be out there to be out there right now.
So what year did you come back to the East Coast?
I was out there for 2 years. So I'd say I probably came back in 2014, 2015.
Okay.
And it was like I came back, I literally like I had $0 left. I had like next to $0 left.
I've been there.
So I like was living at my mom's.
Okay.
Yeah, like that was like a weird gap year where I was like, all right, I need to like put my life back together. So I like moved back in with my mom in Connecticut, and I like took a job for like $15 an hour, like kind of doing like I ended up getting a job doing like content writing for Dole fruits and vegetables out when I was living in LA. So when I moved back, I like leveraged that, and I was like this small like really niche publishing company. I was like, I did this for a bigger company, like does that apply? And they're like, we don't care, we just need you to copy this text and paste it on the internet. And that was my job for a year, was like content management, which is like I worked into being able to do some social media management and like, but 80% of my day was sitting down in a chair and copying text from one place to make it palatable for an internet audience.
Not personally fulfilling, I assume.
No, not at all. And that was kind of like where the whispers of like, I need to start shooting something, like I need to start doing this. But it's also like I was in full retreat mode. Like I was in a relationship in LA. I was like, trying to do like music videos and like short films, which I would do, but I was still like broke and drinking a ton and all of that. So when I moved back, it was like maybe I was accepting that like penance for it. So I was like, I get it. Like I get why I have this like crappy job right now. I get why I'm like grinding like this But then after a while, you're like, if you want to create, there's something in you that's going to be shouting to create no matter what.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize how little money is in music videos and short films.
You are paying for them.
Yeah.
Like the artist will give you $500 and then you will spend $1,200 to get the people there and the food. And then something breaks down on your way to the shoot and you're spending $600 to put the tire on your car to like, it is insane how much, especially at the low level, you are paying to create.
Yeah. And the tough thing is, like you said, I think the tools that are out there now make having somewhat professional end results, or it's easier. So there's always someone that's like just getting into it that's willing to like undercut, and it just drives the price down.
Absolutely. It's like a race to the bottom.
It's a race. That's exactly it. I tell people this in business all the time. So I used to work for a guy who was always like wheeling and dealing and cutting deals and trying to like get more clients by doing things cheaper. And I'm like, dude, that is a losing strategy.
And it's like, it makes you a commodity, not a unique thing. It makes you something that the second you can be replaced, you will be replaced.
Right. Because people are just shopping on price at that point.
Yeah. And so that's why, like, for my business now, which is like obviously jumping ahead and we can work back, but like I've tried to move us so far away from certain industries that I think just do that.
Right.
Specifically, like, I think event work and real estate and things like that, where people are like, how cheap can it be?
Yeah.
Like, and then I think like, what are iPhones going to be able to do in a year or two? Like what?
Yes.
So I'm really aggressively trying to move as far away from the things that I think are just like that low hanging fruit as possible. Because
I think real estate, that's a good point. I think real estate photography is going to go away in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Because iPhones will just be good enough that the agent can do it themselves. At the end of the day, people don't really care about composition and stuff. They want to say, oh, that photo looks good. The house looks nice. End of story.
And so like, it's weird. Because we've started doing work with home builders versus, the agents who are trying to sell a home.
Right.
Because the home builders have pride in their work. They understand the art that comes out of a photo as well.
Yeah.
So they're like, we're proud of this project. We want to take the time and energy to do it versus you're cutting into my commission. I don't care as long as there are 30 photos in my MLS. You know?
The upper echelon will stay. Like, do you know Kelly McCaskill?
Absolutely.
She does.
She's actually, I think if timing is right, she's doing some design work in my office right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
She is an incredible architecture.
She's so talented.
Photographer. Yeah. And like that, she's good. She'll be fine.
Yeah.
She's taking photos of high-end structures, custom design structures, and that is going to demand someone knows what they're doing. But like,
and she like gets it. Like her portfolio is so solid. Like, and if it wasn't for that, like just the lines that she uses, the things that she does, like she's just so good at it. Like, shout out to Kelly, who's also like, I don't know.
she's world class.
She really is.
But yeah, I agree. Even like portraiture, I think could be going away. F-Stoppers, the website, they did a feature on a flash that syncs with your iPhone. And because that's the thing, right? Like people are like, oh, well, flash photography is going to stay because phones can't do that. It's like, they're going to figure that out.
Figure it out.
And I'll be honest, the photos look pretty good.
I think it's so funny because I've been so against, obviously just for self-preservation, so against the iPhone thing, so against shooting behind the scenes, like whatever. Then the 12 Pro came out, that plus the Osmo Mobile 4.
Yeah.
For quick social media cuts, you have no clue that it's like, if you were to blow it up, if you were to watch it on a laptop, but if you're just throwing it onto like social media, it's great.
Yeah.
Like I finally like kind of took the turn, and it's not that I'm not a realist. Like I've known this is coming. I've been bracing for it, but it's like, I was so vehemently against it, and now to see what it's capable of, it's like a little devastating.
It is, but at the end of the day, and it's cliche to say, but it's not the gear that matters. It's the person behind it. And I think going back to your point about not trying to sell on price, like I'm sure a big part of what you guys sell on is the experience, the professionalism, prompt delivery time, communication. That's all the stuff that matters.
So the way that I always try to kind of explain it is like, at the end of the day, like once we all get to a point of quality, then it comes down to like being able to position the story,
right,
and to be able to work with a company and quickly, because like we're dealing with businesses. We're like a business that happens to deal in creation. So I understand when I like go into a company, they're like, I don't have like 2 weeks to spend crafting this message and shutting everything down to get the perfect shot and like whatever. It's like, we're trying to alleviate as much work for you as possible, and come in, understand who you are really quickly, be able to have, 6-7 interviews where I have to understand your business so that when we deliver our product, it's like, we got your company, and we can tell that story to someone else within a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Just by having a conversation over like a day or so.
Right.
So I think what we bank on is, on some level, it's just making people like kind of comfortable around us as a group, but it's also like taking who you are and being able to boil it down and present it in like the best way.
Yeah. So getting back to your journey here, you were living at home with your mom, talking about fruit on the internet.
Hey.
So how and when did Windwood become a thing? Was that the next step?
It was a gap step. While it's so interesting because like it started then, and I literally we moved my mom out of her home when she retired like a couple of years ago, and I went back down into like the basement, kind of where it started, where I'd like painted a green screen like thing on like her. I literally ruined her basement.
Awesome.
And there was apparently like radon, like really high levels of radon down there that we didn't find out until like 6-7 months into me being down there. So I was working that job and it was terrible, and I was talking to my dad a bunch about how like the feature that I tried to do in college didn't work out, and how like it was going to take X, Y, and Z, and like, I could probably do something better in the future. And like, more credit to him just being amazing. Like, he helped me buy a camera, and then like I was able to loan kind of that second half of the camera, and I ended up paying him back. But so it started with like a camera while I was still working nights and weekends.
Yeah.
Like, and so the first iteration of Windwood was like me just sitting in my mom's basement while I had this job that I hated, and I was trying to pitch video production to the company that I was working for, and it just didn't click for them.
Yeah.
So the first thing I ever shot was a car show I didn't know I was going to get paid for it. It was free. Like, I had this camera.
What were you shooting on?
It was my first C100 Mark II.
Oh, nice.
I spent like a month back and forth with my friends who were like shooting, and they were like, same debate just later, like, is it Sony, is it whatever? And I'm like, I have one crack at this. Like, what's something that I can shoot on every single day for the rest of my life? And like, well, it's not 4K. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I need something that I can go create with.
Yeah.
So it was that, like the kit lens that came with it, which is actually still a nice lens. We still use the 24-105 today. And I had a friend who was working at a coffee shop that does car shows. And he was like, we're doing a car show on Saturday or Sunday, I think it was. Like, you should come by and shoot it. I'm like, I don't know the first thing about cars. Again, I still hadn't learned anything about shutter speed, f-stop, frame rate.
Right.
But I went to this car show, and it started, I think, at 8 or 9, and I showed up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, like before the sun was there, before any of the cars were there.
Yeah.
And to this day, I think that level of like being comfortable waking up crack ass has gotten me more work than anything else ever. So I shot this thing. I still don't know anything about cars. Some of the other people in the industry, because I ended up shooting a lot of car shows, if they found that out, they would be none too happy with me after 4 years of working with me. Like, they're like, hey, did you see that? Like, whatever. I'm like, the white car? And they're like, yeah. Like, obviously, that one-of-a-kind car drove by. I'm like, I think I know what you're talking about.
Oh, man.
But what it came down to was I liked seeing how people reacted to cars. Like, that's what I started shooting. Like, I didn't know what the car was, but I knew that if there was like a dad that was pointing the car out to his kid and like explaining like X, Y, and Z, I'm like, that's what speaks to me. That's universal. So that's what I kind of became addicted to in the beginning, which was all event work, was like, how are people engaging with this thing? How are they explaining it? What do they love about it? And I just kind of like sunk into this rhythm of like trying to find something over the weekend, or trying to find like a friend's like art show, and how are people engaging with the art? And it was never about like that thing, because that thing can be anything. Like you have like lifting, that's your thing. You engage with it on such like just a primal level. That's what people connect to, I think, visually and as a storyteller as well. It's like, if I can tap into that kind of baseline, like this is what this means to me, then I was like, okay, I think I have something. So from there, that was, I think around 2015, I got a text from a friend, and I was at my desk at this job, and it was, hey, I just started at this tech company in Manchester. Like, I showed them some of your car show work. Like, would you be able to like hop on a phone call and maybe have like just a discussion with our president? I'm like, yeah, like I could probably do it. Within 5 minutes, the president called me, and I'll never forget this. He said, and I quote, "If I were to send a car to pick you up right now, what would you say?" I'm like, it's Wednesday, I think, at my job.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'm at work right now. Like, I would hope that any job you have enough like common decency to like do the thing that you've been asked to do. So I was like, we can set up a time to meet, but I'm not like gonna hop in some weird car. So by Friday I had a dinner interview with that same guy, and within a week or two I was up in Manchester working.
Doing production work for them? So it was I guess it still exists. I'm not like too familiar with it, but at this point, but it was really innovative, like when I kind of went in and when it was pitched to me, and it was like an application that let you organize video and educational content. And if you were like a company, you could kind of develop your own application where it like had everything pretty streamlined. And that was like kind of how it was positioned to me. And what I'd be doing is helping like build out their studio capability and the team of video producers that they were going to bring in to shoot educational content and marketing content. That's cool.
So I was just like, that sounds amazing. That's like a dream thing. And so I didn't have too much that I was like losing. And don't get me wrong, I love the people that I worked with and stuff, but like I think they can admit that the job that I was doing maybe wasn't the best fit for any human being.
Right.
And I feel like they'd be better off spending like $5 to $10 grand to like automate that. Like just bring a programmer in.
Right.
You're good forever.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
So I moved up to Manchester.
So you did that for how long?
So I worked in Manchester at that company for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think the tough thing was they had gotten a round of venture funding, and I'm going to try to be like, because I still know and love a lot of the people that work here. So I don't want to obviously like say anything too mean or whatever, but like they burned through $10 million in 2 years.
Oh, okay.
And it was just tough because they had this whole thing when I got there where they're like, we're going to hire everyone that to make the company that we need to be this big successful thing. So they moved from like this smaller mill building into this beautiful like brand new space in the mill next door, and they jumped their rent up from like $2,500 to like $10,000 a month. And everything they did was trying to be like, how quickly can we like grow into this thing without finding the clients or laying the groundwork to kind of expand. So I think like just in the nicest way, like any company that can burn through that much money and to have a turnover of over 100 people when they never had more than 42 people in the office anyway, like something's wrong. So that was like weird because I had finally gotten this opportunity to create and to do this thing that was supposed to be creative, but it turned into like a really negative thing ultimately, and it kind of informed how anything that I did as a business owner in my life or whatever was not going to be.
Right.
Which is I don't want to be mean, like I don't think ill of anything that kind of happened there, but it was just like any ideas we had on the marketing side or any video ideas, it was the least prioritized thing. And it almost like showing up to work every day with the assumption that they don't want you there or that what you're doing is like negatively thought of,
right,
is a soul crushing thing.
Yeah.
So like I'd get there, I'd have this great idea, and it was just like I did something wrong for having it.
That's not good.
No, not at all. So yeah, that was like probably around 2016, 17, and that was like another full, like, once that ended.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So I mean, I think if we were to look for like, you know, the big kind of inciting incidents, or like probably like the biggest time in my life for like actually changing my life to try to get to a point where like, so I was around 25, and for some reason that year just like hit really hard, that 25, 26, because I was there and I realized like I could get stuck doing something that I don't like doing for people who don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
Forever. Like this is part of the social contract. Like there are so many people who are either doing a job that doesn't fit them or doing something for someone who doesn't kind of appreciate that work or the effort. So when that job ended, it was like a really also tough time. Like I was just going through some personal stuff, and then having that kind of taken away from me in like not a pretty way. It was one of those weird, like, what, like, can I even do this thing that I was like granted the ability to do, like that I was trying to do, like, and I was like looking for jobs, and I still had like Windwood. I had like, just as an outlet, I was coming to Concord. Working in Manchester, I was coming to Concord on like Friday nights because they had outdoor music.
Yep.
And like in Bicentennial Square, and I had never been to Concord, but I had seen that they were doing this music series, so I just started shooting it for free because I just needed something where I felt like I was like being appreciated or like adding value. And I kind of just fell in love with like Concord as an area, just from doing this. And I got to a point after about like 6 months of like looking for jobs and kind of having that like internal, maybe it wasn't 6 months, but like that internal, like, holy crap, what am I even doing with my life? Where I was like, is this it? Like, do I just bank on the fact that I have a camera and I can do the thing? So I started taking like clients during business hours, which was new, because most, even people who are like content creators are trying to do it on their own right now. They're still like, yeah, I can totally shoot that thing from like 6:30 to 9:30 at night, or like one Sunday, schedule me in 2 months, but then like I have a family commitment, so I can't. So being able to open up business hours for me as a creator, like, somehow changed the game. Like being able to go into a company at 9 o'clock and like be a service provider versus just some guy who is there on the nights and weekends was like a huge change.
Yeah. So, when did you hire your first employee?
That is such a good question. I hired one of my best friends now, who I had met from my last job, who had a kind of similar experience. His name is Jared. He's actually, his dream was to be a personal trainer, but after that last job, he ended up working at his old job before that, which was at Lumber Barn. And I just needed help. I just needed editing help. I needed, anytime I was like on a shoot with equipment, I just didn't, I was too much. Like, especially trying to be a like multicam and like, you know, all these interviews and stuff. I was just getting super overwhelmed. So I brought him out to lunch, and we were having this conversation. I'm pretty sure like his boss from Lumber Barn was like there, like came into the lunch spot.
Oh God.
So it just ended up working in that, like, I knew he didn't want to be like in Windwood forever. I would have had him forever. I, you know, obviously still would, but like he had a goal to be a personal trainer. But I was like, no matter what, you doing that is not like progressing you to the next point. So he came on board, and that was also like, that's a thing. Like, if you're not just a guy with a camera, like you have another person who believes in the thing that you're doing. It's such a small but powerful thing to be like, oh, let me like talk to the office about that, or let me like. And so like bringing Jared on was hugely like transformatory for my business, because we showed up, it wasn't just me, it was like me and someone. And then I ended up starting to work with his brother as well, Sam, who does photography and graphic design and stuff like that. But Sam never came on as like a hire. And as Jared was transitioning out, because he had gone through all the certification stuff to be a personal trainer, I brought on another person from that other company who had had a similar experience, Joe, who really helped us define our image. Because I still think like the one thing that I was never good at and still don't have the best capability at is like just composition and image quality and stuff like that. So Joe came in, was like pretty hardline about like, no, you need like this light or this piece of equipment. And I think the tough thing was I still wasn't making enough money to be able to provide for these equipment purchases and things like this. Like, it costs a lot to make things look really good on the high end. So like I was trying really hard. I was like trying to buy things that like I couldn't really afford and like do all of this to get there, but it just never like, it just, even to this day, I still feel like there are 100 things that I'd like to buy to get me to that next level, and I'm not there yet. So yeah, after a while, we moved to Concord. Sam, Jared's brother, had found this awesome space that he was going to be doing his graphic design and kind of t-shirt stuff out of. He still has a full-time job, but it was just like that space where he could hang his hat, and if he had like some orders and stuff, he could work from there. And we're still in that space today. Like, I've ultimately ended up taking like the half that was mine and then kind of taking the half that was his because we just needed it. And yeah, like,
you need somewhere to put all the gear.
We need somewhere to put the stuff, and it's like we have just been kind of growing steadily as a company, and there were just too many people like running around, and especially now like with COVID, that's like a huge thing. Is like we have this team that loves being together, but being in such a small space, like we have people working remote, like it's not the same like cohesive kind of thing that we all love coming back to. Like, we only have 1 or 2 people in the office at any given time. So
I mean, obviously what's happened in the past year has really changed a lot of things. But so that's cool. So what's kind of like the next step for you as far as the business and everything else?
So it's interesting. When I started Windwood, it was a lot of like what we had spoken to earlier. I realized that you needed infrastructure and you needed money to make things. So my intentional like kind of path with the company was to always bring the people, bring the equipment, like be able to have those, so that if we wanted to take, you know, a sidestep to do a spec commercial or do like a narrative project, that would all be there. That wouldn't be like, crap, now I have to pay 25 grand out of pocket. That's like, this is just what this company does. We're going to take like a hop gap into this. So we've done a couple things over the last year, which I'm hoping keep pushing us toward this, which is taking on like post-production for another friend's narrative project to get like a little bit more acquainted with that workflow and stuff like that. And I would love to see in the next couple of years positioning more towards being able to do national work for commercials, and then take, you know, that 2-3 weeks to be able to do like narrative stuff in the next year or two. Like,
so you want to be like a full-fledged production
that would be really nice. But I think the thing that I never anticipated was like falling in love with doing like the kind of corporate side of video production. Like, I didn't think that was like a thing. It wasn't what anyone went to college for, but like being able to go and like basically have a different job every week or, you know, every few days, and like find out like, oh, like now we're like into trades advocacy and into like underrepresentation of like people in the trades, and trying to get like more visibility into people who are absolutely killing it that you wouldn't expect, who are like machine like loaders and operators and stuff like that. Like, I didn't know that that was going to be something that I found out about, or like you know, the labor gap in manufacturing, things like that. Like, I had no idea, but just by virtue of like spending the amount of time that I've spent like on shop floors or like in machine shops, things like that, and talking to people, it's like I've opened myself up to falling in love with like the actual business side of it as well. And so my hope is to continue every part of Windwood that we've grown, which is like being able to service the local Concord clients that we have for maybe not our actual rates, but just because we love that community, like being able to service the businesses that we service and grow that, because that's interesting and intriguing, and it's taught me more about like my own business. But then always having a place for that growth and pushing the boundaries, which is the commercial and the narrative stuff.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people don't really realize how much goes into making a legitimate, good quality, well put together project. And so sometimes people are like sticker shocked by the prices of things.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just think it's a matter of like, oh, you have a good camera. And it's like the camera gets you halfway there.
Yeah. It's like I also have insurance. I have an entire, like I have thousands of like pieces of equipment and like hard drives and things like that go into this. It's like, it's a lot. And they only see the tip of the iceberg because everything else that we bought isn't coming here. It's like it's staying in the office so that we can just show up, unload, make it really smooth and easy for you.
Yeah, I mean, I got away from the production stuff because my career just took a different path, and I ended up opening a gym. But then once I had built that business up enough where I had a little bit more freedom of my own time, then I was like, okay, you know what? Instead of like paying somebody else to do my advertising, I'm going to produce a lot of my own content. So I always had a passion for it. So that's what got me back into it. And I had the budget to buy some of the stuff, because the gym was doing well. And I had my bookkeeper put together a list of just how much I've spent on like camera related stuff over the last 3 years. I'm actually like nervous to say the number on.
Can you ballpark? You're like, and
it was 30 grand.
Yeah.
Which for somebody that's just like one person
just doing it,
doing it, you know what I mean? And that number doesn't give the full picture because a lot of stuff like I would buy, okay, I don't really like it, sell it,
return it, sell it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that was just like straight up like retail cost. So a lot of that's offset by, selling gear, and if you buy the right stuff, I mean, gear will hold its value pretty well.
Yeah. I think what kills me is like, for some reason, it's a mental thing with me. I hate selling things.
Same, yeah.
It's like I have, especially like that first C100. Well, granted, it's the second one now because I definitely maybe burned one of them out in like a rainstorm or something. But it's mine. Like I've created things with that. Like it's such a weird like. I can't give it up. I can't let someone else kind of, I don't know.
Especially lenses, man.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me.
I mean, there'll be a lens that I won't use for 6 months, but I'm like, you never know. The next job, I might need it.
You might.
So,
do you know how many jobs we've gotten to where we're missing like one battery or like one memory card?
Yeah.
And the other $50,000 worth of equipment doesn't matter because you're missing the $300 thing.
Right.
It's insane.
But yeah, going back to the cost of it, I mean, you have the camera, the lenses, the audio equipment, the case, just the cases to put the equipment in to travel with them. You're paying people, stands, cables. I mean, just everything. It just adds up.
And then it's like the memory storage as well.
Yeah.
I don't, in the same way that I don't throw away a camera, I don't delete a shot because the second you're like, clear that hard drive, you get, a text from someone being like, oh, like you shot a graduation when you were first starting out and like this person's daughter walked across the stage. And I'm like, I don't know. Like I haven't opened that project in 4 years.
It's just crazy. I mean, this camera that I'm shooting on right now, it's basically 1-to-1. 1 minute is 1 gig.
Yep.
It's like, that just takes up so much freaking space.
Yeah, we had to do the math on like our own storage space and like how much it kind of costs.
Yeah.
And right now it's like, I wish we could get it down. I wish there was some better solution. But
and it's, I mean, for what you're doing too, you can't just like go to Best Buy and buy a hard drive. You have to buy professional solutions for managing this stuff.
No, although we definitely have done that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The amount of times we're like, oh God, we need space to do this.
Yeah, like
it's a
stopgap. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then, as the saying goes, 1 is none, 2 is 1. Like you got to have backups and stuff.
Backups and backups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. People don't really realize what goes into it. I think, going back to talking about how people are going to be doing stuff with their iPhone or whatever. On the flip side, I do think that more businesses are realizing how powerful video can be.
Absolutely.
And if you look at 2019 for my business, that's when I really started cranking out customer testimonial videos. I did a video on what our consultation process looks like because people were nervous about that before they came in. All of that stuff we saw I mean, I think our business grew by like 80% or something crazy like that, you know? So it's super powerful. What kills me is you'll do a video project for somebody, you'll knock it out of the park, and then they just don't do anything with it.
That's we actually just hired a content strategist specifically because like we are creating these things that people are spending a lot of money on.
Yeah.
And then they're like linking to my Google Drive as a post.
Right.
And I'm like, how? Just call me. Like call me at 2 a.m. to avoid this.
Right.
But don't post it at 2 a.m.
Right.
Like post it at a normal time when people are watching.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah.
So it's specifically that like our like part of the reason why we hadn't historically, we've just kind of done any marketing is because our marketing is the thing that we provide to these clients.
Right.
Like, so to not have that positioned in the best possible way kills us as well. Cause it's like that thing that we created, that painting, that whatever, like if it goes out into the world and it looks like, you know, crap because someone didn't post it correctly, hurts us.
Yeah.
Or if it doesn't get the views or the engagement,
right,
then suddenly it's like it's on us.
You're losing exposure.
It makes us look like we can't deliver something that clients engage with or that, you know, an audience engages with.
So as a filmmaker, what are your thoughts on TikTok?
Oh man. It's weird. I feel like I don't dislike it in any way because I feel like every time we come to this short form content, like we had Vine, and I just don't think we were ready for it. And I don't know if TikTok's the final one or if like Instagram's just gonna innovate that thing or Facebook's gonna like kind of recreate it or buy it or whatever. So I definitely think we have an obsession with the quickest and the easiest and like the kind of memifying things or just making it super palatable in a really quick time. And I think you're not going to get rid of the information scroll and stream. Like, do I hate how much time I can spend on things like that on Instagram and what? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But do I hate the platform in and of itself? No.
Yeah.
No. Because I've seen some things on TikTok that I'm like, holy crap, that's like super creative or that's super funny or super cool. And I'm like, you follow people who provide good information too, and you can learn a lot too.
Yeah, I was very like, oh, that's stupid. Like, just kids.
It's just kids. That's exactly what I thought.
I'm getting older now, so but I did actually finally get on there because I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel. Shameless plug. And someone was like, hey, I've actually had good success promoting it via TikTok. Yeah. So like, all right, I'll check it out. And I found this woman in Massachusetts. I'm actually going to reach out to her soon and see if she wants to get on and do an interview with me because what the heck is her name? Maddie something? I don't know if you've seen this. Oh, God, TikTok. Every time you log in, it just automatically starts playing a video.
Yep. They know how to get you.
Yeah.
Like...
yeah, for sure. All right. Maddie's. Have you seen this?
I don't know.
She does crazy like transition.
Yeah, I follow her.
Yeah.
I actually follow her.
Yeah. She's right in
That's
math.
really funny.
Yeah, and that was like one of the first people I saw that was like, okay, I have respect for what people are doing. They're taking this thing and really pushing the limits of it.
Yeah.
And she does all of that in the app. Like,
and I think that's like the crazy thing, but it's always what we've done. Like when MySpace came out, you had people who were like hacking their profiles to look insane.
Right, right.
And I'm sure that was a business, or I'm sure like, so we've always found ways to like kind of innovate on these things. And like, she's a perfect example of it. But I think as far as just like providing valuable content and information and stuff, it's how we prefer to kind of look at it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a little bit of a content creator's nightmare if you're like doing this professionally.
Yeah.
Because there's not an easy way to shoot one thing and deliver it on every platform.
We've kind of had to adapt to that. We have one client who's like actually crushing it on TikTok right now. But the problem is TikTok, the way that it works, it still prioritizes things that were created in the app. So if they, you know, it's a excavation client. So if they're on site and they
I think I saw some of that on your Instagram.
Yeah. So if they just film like, you know, a loader, like a truck driving by in the app or like on their phones, it sometimes gets like a ton of engagement compared to like, we went out there, we shot the site. It was like really early. The shot was beautiful.
Right.
Everything was perfect. Like, and it gets like 5 views, but like
Right.
they've been able to build this massive audience based on like a combination of the professional stuff that we do and the kind of quick stuff that they do. So
Yeah.
for me, as looking to the future, it's like trying to now advise my clients, like, there is always a call for rough around the edges. Just get it done. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
So take your phone out, do the video, do that. Like, I will help you learn how to do that if you don't know how to do it. But then every once in a while, show the value and the quality of what you're doing.
I think with the more homemade stuff, for lack of a better term, like just somebody whipping their phone out and just filming something for their business, I think that's a great way to stay engaged with your current customers because you already have that trust built with them. They're more interested in some of the more day-to-day stuff. I think the high production value stuff is a lot better for netting new clients or customers.
It's that like the difference between like the awareness and the consideration, I feel like too.
Yeah.
When we kind of start to onboard a new client, like I think the best fit for us is when we believe in what they're doing too, because I'm not gonna make your thing go viral like with what we do. Like it's just not how we're positioned as a company. It's not what we like really try to do. But what I will do is if you're stacked up against 2 other companies and someone watches a video like testimonial from one of your clients about how you built them the kitchen that like lets them spend more time with their kids, like I'm going to make it so that it's really hard not to consider you and to choose you between a few different ones.
Yeah. That's a good point. I found out, someone was telling me yesterday, a Facebook specialist, they were telling me, like a marketing specialist, they were telling me that on TikTok, the algorithm will treat you differently if you're a business profile.
Interesting.
So they were building up their own like Etsy thing. I think they were making like products for dogs, like clothing items for dogs type of thing. And they were saying that they had a ton of engagement on their profile, and then they changed it to like a business profile so they get analytics, and it just like dropped. And they switched back, and it started to get bumped up again.
Well, I think that's like anything else. Eventually, it's like, how do we monetize?
Right. And they want you to pay for the,
Well, it's like Facebook in 2014, before they like switched over to making you pay for everything. Like you'd create a page, and by the end of the day, you'd have like 200,000 followers because they liked dog.
Organic reach was a real thing.
It was huge.
Yeah. Now it's all paid.
It was all paid.
Yeah. I've actually been running ads for my YouTube channel to try to grow it. And it's funny because everyone's like, that's BS, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. What you don't understand is like the content still has to be good. Because if people click on the ad and it's not good, it's not interesting, they're not going to subscribe. They're not going to keep watching.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is basically sidestepping the algorithm and just getting in front of people.
Well, the other interesting thing is it's like not even a sidestep of the algorithm. It's actually getting the ad served to the people who would have seen it before.
Right.
Even like, let's say you have 1,000 people who follow your personal Facebook, like chances are 800 of those people aren't going to see it unless you're paying for it.
Right.
Which is kind of a crazy way of being like, I have people who want to follow me and you're not helping them see that thing. Like, please help me out here. Like,
yeah, it's crazy how much they've like chained businesses. You know, they kind of entrapped businesses by saying like, oh, here's all this free stuff, got everyone's eyeballs onto their platform, and then they go, actually, you know what? You got to pay us for that now.
I mean, Netflix was what, $6-7, and now it's 17-18. Like, once you get someone on the tap, you know, like they're gonna keep, as long as it's the easiest option, as long as it's where everyone else is and keeps your attention. And like Facebook is so weird in that like nothing came and replaced it, you know?
Yeah.
It is, as many people say, oh, I'm going to leave Facebook. Oh, I'm on my way out. I'm going to go find a new platform. Like,
that hasn't happened.
Your kids are on Facebook. Your parents, your cousin, that girl that you used to know who moved out to like whatever, like everyone that you're trying to keep up with still centralizes that one app.
Yeah, it is interesting to me how the different platforms have just naturally become different pockets of different things. For example, a lot of young people are getting on Facebook, but for them, Facebook is like the more professional social media. That's where I'm going to post, you know, if I'm a kid, I'm going to post my graduation photos. And if I go get a new job, I might put it there. Where like Instagram is where I'm like showing me and my friends like smoking weed and like doing whatever.
And it's weird because it is an immediacy or like a large event thing, where TikTok is like, doesn't matter what time of day, just throw it up there.
Right.
Instagram is a bit more curated, where it's like only the good stuff, only like the life vibe things.
Yeah.
And then Facebook is more like the accomplishment place.
Correct.
Where it's just like that next level of like, yeah, like my daughter was born, or like these bigger things that you post now. Like Facebook used to be like, you'd write on someone's wall. Like,
right.
You would say something terrible that if you're like running for congressperson, you have to like go back and delete. Like now it's for bigger things. It's for like your family stuff. So it's interesting, the hierarchy that's developed.
Yeah, and LinkedIn, I guess I missed the boat on that, because I guess LinkedIn was really big last year or the year before.
It's still there, and I think why I like LinkedIn and why I tell a lot of clients to like give it a much better look is because you're already pre-vetted the people there.
Right.
It's not like some keyboard warrior that's like gonna jump all over you for like saying something about like a deadlift. It's like 10 people in the fitness community that happen to be like, it is professional.
It is. It's the interface though it's Facebook.
It is.
It's so weird.
It's everything is just Facebook now. Like
I know.
Even Instagram, like it's a picture and words. Like
right.
we've boiled it down. We're getting to that point where everything's going to look exactly the same.
It is. Yeah, it is annoying to me how all of these platforms are trying to steal market share from one another. So a big controversy, I don't know if it's controversy, but it's talked about a lot, is with YouTube. Are you familiar with YouTube Shorts?
No, not as much.
So TikTok obviously blowing up. Everyone's like on TikTok, you got to be on TikTok. Well, YouTube's like, well, we're the video platform. We want to steal that market share. So they launched a new app. It's not available anywhere outside of India, I don't think. They're beta testing it there. Vertical video only. 60 seconds or less.
Of course.
And you can actually, without the Shorts app, you can still get your short videos listed on the what they call the Shorts shelf. And all you and I would do is we would take a vertical video, upload it to our normal YouTube channel. It has to be less than 60 seconds. And if you hashtag Shorts in the title and or the description, eventually in a couple days, YouTube will go, oh, this is a short video. And so they're pushing it out. And because they're pushing it out, it's getting a lot of views. So people are like, oh, this is, again, a way to shortcut the algorithm. So people are punching out a ton of these short videos. And like YouTube has been the haven for long form content. And so it's like super frustrating because now your favorite YouTuber, their page is just cluttered with all these stupid short. And I think they're already starting to backtrack on the vertical thing because I don't think people are really that into it. Because are you familiar with Mr. Beast?
No.
He's one of the fastest growing YouTubers right now. He's got like 50 million subscribers. He does crazy things like buys people houses on the show and just like nuts stuff like that. He started uploading shorts that weren't vertical. And obviously he's very popular. People notice and they're like, what's the deal with that? And he responds to some of the comments and he's like, it's going to make sense soon. And he's a big enough guy that he's probably in touch with someone at YouTube. Like he
probably has like an account manager. Or
right. You know, so he's got some inside info. So I think they're going to abandon it having to be vertical because, again, like that's not what YouTube really thrived on. But like Instagram, right? First it was just pictures. And then they did video, but it was 15 seconds or less. Now it's 60. And then they wanted to be like YouTube. So they did IGTV, which I think is a total flop. Does anybody watch that?
Well, it's like I get it in principle, but the way that they have it, it just seems so limiting to what you're trying to do. Like, I've never posted something on IGTV and felt well served by how it went out into the world. I'm like, that sucks. Like what you just did to my video. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm like too protective of it, but But then it's the same thing with Snapchat. It's like, okay, you're all just becoming each other.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see like what.
Yeah, Instagram did the stories, right? And that kind of took a big chunk out of Snapchat, I feel like. What's crazy, what's stupid to me now is, you know, Instagram has the Reels to be like TikTok. But it's like, guys, you already had 60-second or less video. Like, why did we need reels now? You know, I don't understand what the purpose of it is.
And it's like, how is that not already the thing that you're doing? Like, you have highlights or like whatever. Like,
Right.
can't you just make it all part of one kind of little ecosystem?
But it's frustrating, right? Because TikTok will give you 60 seconds, but Reels is only 30.
Mm-hmm.
And TikTok's 9:16, but Instagram is slightly different, right? It's vertical, but it's not.
I don't even know. So we do try to provide vertical like edits for clients. And so even though it's tough, like we shoot wide. Like
right.
So
trying to make it look cinematic. Cinematic is wide, bro.
But then everyone wants like the social, like the story, the whatever. So it's like trying to think about that before you shoot it is like, it's a nightmare sometimes. But it's like, we understand that that's what we engage with. That's what other people are engaging with. So it is tough to be like, okay, we shot this 2-minute video that now you want as a 1-minute video. You want as a 30-second video. You want as 2 15-second videos. You want, but it's just the way of the world. So like, I'll always say to a client, we can cut it apart and like do this with it because I want more people to watch it.
Yeah.
I want like the content to be successful.
What do you guys edit with?
Premiere.
So they have that auto reframe sequence function.
Yeah.
Which I thought like, hey, this is the godsend, but it doesn't always work quite the way that you want it to.
Not usually we'll cut something, that main thing, and then we'll like either nest it and like bring it in, or we'll just like kind of create a new sequence against it.
It's a pain.
And just do it. Yeah,
I hate it.
I hate it too.
But I guess you're right. It's just the way of the world. So we got a little off track there. We're talking about our social media opinions. So where can people find you if they want to reach out to Windwood?
Ooh. So we're WindwoodProductionsLLC.com. Most of our ats are somewhere around Windwood Productions or Windwood Productions LLC. And then like, I think the other thing is like, we are super personable. Just, I'd like to think that you could just reach out to me personally if you had like question, comment, concern, even if it's not about like, hey, I want you to do my video. If it's like, hey, I have no idea how to do this for video, or my company is thinking about X, Y, and Z for video. Like, I don't charge like a consultation thing. I genuinely like to have people creating in the best possible way, because we've all been at that other point where we're like, like perfect example is the 29-minute cutoff. Like I've shot things and not known that. So I would like to help people avoid that if at all possible. So reach out with any kind of questions. Yeah.
And last bit, what is your advice to young people who are thinking about getting into a creative career? Should they go to college for it? Should they not go to college for it? Should they pursue it? Should it just be a hobby? What's your advice for young people?
I think that my best advice is that there's never a time where you can't create professional content or something that will kind of help you get that next stepping stone. People a lot of the time ask me like, oh, should you take free work? That's kind of the biggest question. And I don't think you should ever take something that makes you uncomfortable, but if it's something that speaks to you, maybe reach out and ask to shoot something for free. So never take a job from someone who's telling you you're going to get exposure. But if it's like, you get a new like North Face jacket or like Timberland boots or something, like you can crush a 15-second spot with the best of them. And that can be something that maybe no one ever sees it. Maybe it's just to get the skills, but you can do professional work now. That's the insane thing. That's what I think I missed in college. I was not seeing that my friends were all going out on the weekends and like doing professional level work. I didn't get it. So I think for now, like it is a field that you can create in, you can make money and you can do, and you can kind of dictate your own hours and freedom. And if it is something where you want to keep your 9 to 5, like I think the barriers are down now where you could go shoot professionally, at night, or do what I was unsuccessful in doing and talk to your business, see if they want video while you're there.
Yeah.
I know so many people who will just go and talk to like a hotel or a restaurant or whatever and be like, can I take a photo of like a burger or something? Like, just do it. Build up a portfolio, create a Squarespace. Like you can be a professional person now.
Yeah.
And be nice. That's the other thing in creative businesses. I think people miss that, like, you can be amazing at the creative side of it, but if people don't like you as a human, you're not going to be picking up many jobs.
Yeah. There's definitely kind of an attitude in the industry too. With a lot of creative industries, people get jealous that they're getting work or not getting work, yada, yada, yada. So,
well, I'll admit, there are so many companies that I look at when they come out with that new thing, and I'm like, oh, man. Like, but that's got to be the fire. Just don't be, like, mean to those people or like, whatever. Like, keep your jealousy, tell your team how much you hate it, and go out into the world and, like, be happy about it.
Yeah.
Get better because of it. Look up the YouTube video on how to do it.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. All right. Hey, Brett, thanks so much for coming on. And like he said, go check him out, Windwood Productions, on all platforms. And if you are a business looking for video production in New England, hit him up. All right. See you guys later.